صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. Respected ulama, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. The time is now 9:05 and we will begin our program this evening. Tonight marks the 2nd of Muharram. Our program this evening is going to be led by a Marsiya recitation by Brother Jafar Sayyid, and this will be followed by the lecture presented by Hujjat al-Islam, Sayyid Sulayman Hasan Abidi. Again, just a friendly reminder before we begin tonight's program, I would request that for those of you who have your cell phones with you, if you could just please take a moment, double check that it is on mute or at least on vibrate before we begin. At this time, I would now like to request Brother Jafar Sayyid to please come forward to the stage at this time. Please recite aloud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum. So I'm going to recite 2 poems tonight. One is in commemoration of Hazrat Muslim, who we are commemorating tonight, and then followed by a general salam, inshallah. The first one is by the poet Isha Sadiq Haider, something that I found online. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. O Muslim, O Muslim, O Muslim, they left you all alone, even those you had known. Their hearts were made of stone, O Muslim. They left you all alone, even those you had known. Their hearts were made of stone. They couldn't realize that they agonized, that they left to die, O Muslim. You had come all the way to make sure they don't stray. But they did betray, O Muslim. You had come all the way to make sure they don't stray, but they did betray. Hussein knows of your plight. He's weeping day and night, wishing you reunite. O Muslim, O Muslim, O Muslim. Like a lion you fought, the soldiers were distraught. You killed them on the spot, O Muslim. Like a lion you fought, the soldiers were distraught. You killed them on the spot. How much they wounded you, but your power they knew, and how they then withdrew. O Muslim, O Muslim, O Muslim. How painful was your death, you gasped for every breath. They then cut off your head, O Muslim. How painful was your death, you gasped for every breath. They then cut off your head. They threw you from the roof. Nobody disapproved. They all looked so amused. O Muslim, O Muslim, O Muslim. Even your 2 children, Muhammad, Ibrahim, beheaded in a stream, O Muslim. Even your two children, Muhammad, Ibrahim, beheaded in a stream. O people of Kufa, did you not hear Zahra waiting in pain and awe? O Muslim, O Muslim, O Muslim. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. The second poem is by a poet, Sayyid Ali Abbas. He recites, or he composes English poetry. He's out of Maryland, I believe. And he has sent us a lot of nahas and salams over the years. So, for Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Buried in your heart the son of Fatima, Varis of Adam wa Nuh Mustafa, that Hussain ibn Ali al-Murtaza, who defied every zulm of ashqiya. With his final call you still reverberate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. He who taught us how to beat adversity, never compromise or our humanity. He who fought violence with generosity and became the standard of integrity. Only if his model we could emulate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your message is pristine and pure. Never be unjust nor injustice endure. Wealth and power never should inspire awe. Everything you heard and everything you saw, till our final breaths we shall commemorate. till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, you would be lost in history. And Ali Akbar wa Abba se jari. Were it not for your Sahibin Te Ali in the court of arrogance and tyranny, now forever will your sermon resonate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Every Ashura we Shia must renew Karbala's anthems and our character too. Our mourning should inspire what we do. Only then can we deliver what is due. Mawla, help our speech and actions integrate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
In Abbas Bhai, Sehat and Salamti, please recite a loud salawat. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, we have a few new announcements to share with the community today. We have two programs coming up tomorrow and Saturday. The Mehdi Youth Group has a Brothers Q&A session with Maulana tomorrow, Friday, July 21st at 10:45 p.m., so after this program. And that is for boys aged 14 and above, and registration is online for that. Subsequently, there is a sisters Q&A session the following day on Saturday, July 22nd, also at 10:45. That one specifically is for sisters aged 15 and above, and for that registration is online as well. For those of you who haven't been here the last couple of days, another quick reminder. There is a Timescape program that's being organized. It's essentially a live Karbala presentation, a miniature model that depicts the progression of the events that took place in Karbala. The viewing of this is arranged for 30 minutes before the Majlis and 30 minutes after. So if you are interested in viewing that, it's right here on this floor. If you go out to the hallway, make a left, it's in classroom 8. And then the final reminder for our 14th annual blood drive will be August 6th from 10 to 4 p.m. Registration is upstairs in the foyer. I would now like to recognize our sponsors for tonight's program. For the health, safety, and continued blessings for the Jaffrey sisters and their families, and in particular, they have a relative who is ill. I request you all to keep them in your prayers, and for all of them, please recite a loud salawat. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The sponsors have requested that you remember your marhumin as well as their marhumin. Please join me in reciting a Surah Fatiha preceded by a loud salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As a final reminder before we begin tonight's lecture, those of you after the lecture who plan to stay for Matam, kindly request that you make your way upstairs immediately after, quietly and respectfully. If you are planning to leave, again, if you're in the parking lot, please drive slow and carefully. It is dark outside. I will make one more kind request. When we begin the program, if brothers can move as close forward as possible to make sure that we have enough room for guests to find their way towards the rest of the program. At this time, I would request Hujjatul Islam, Sayyid Sulayman Hasan Abidi, to please come to the minbar at this time. Salawat bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين فاطر السماوات والأرضين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين المبعوث رحمة للعالمين شفيع المذنبين وحبيب قلوب الصادقين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الهداة المهديين المظلومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، فقد قال الله عز وجل في القرآن المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل إن صلاتي ونسكي ومحياي ومماتي لله رب العالمين لا شريك له وبذلك أمرت وأنا أول المسلمين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-An'am, commanding our blessed Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alih, say, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. This is a slogan and a definition of the life and the direction or the orientation of our Prophet and our Prophet's religion and the followers and lovers of our Prophet, that our prayer and our worship or devotion or our ritual. Our life and our death are for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. La sharika lah. And there is no partner for Allah. وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. That is what I have been commanded. Our Prophet is commanded, and by extension all of us are commanded to live our life for the sake of Allah with no partner. وَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. And I am the first of those who submit to Allah. In light of this verse, we have begun looking at how it is possible for a person to have a God-centered life. It's life that is not centered on anything but God, on worship or devotion to our whim, our inclination, our ignorance, or any false god that we or other people may take and serve and devote their life to. We mentioned that we should not focus on fun and pleasure as a major goal or purpose in life. That we should not focus on ourself and our individual wants and desires, because that is a road to perdition. And it might seem like this is now a difficult and a harsh standard, and maybe even an unattainable standard if we say that our goal in life is not to be happy, it is not to have fun, it is not to do what we want, it is not to serve our own desire. On the one hand, this goes against everything that we find within our culture and our society, from media to songs to fiction to non-fiction, to the orientation of people's lives in our society. And on the other hand, it might seem like this is a standard that is only possible for a very small number of people, because how can we say no to our wants and our desires and our own inclinations? Is that a difficult ask? And before we proceed, I want to respond to that question that might arise. This is a difficult path. This is a hard or maybe even impossible ask, and only a very small percentage of people are able to fulfill it, by saying that in reality, when we say don't worship the self, and don't be among those of أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ, those people who take their desires and their whim as their God, we are not saying that you are to say no to your wants and your needs. What we in reality are saying is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching you and calling you to understand your true needs and wants are not always what you think they are. And so by saying no to your hawa and your whim and your desire, and even sometimes what you think is fun and enjoyable and what you are inclined to do, it is not that you are suppressing yourself or you are saying no to yourself, but rather you are ignoring something that is a distraction, and you are attending to something that is your true need and your true desire. So it is not suppressing and denying who you are. but rather understanding that who you are is not just that first thought or inclination that comes into your mind, but rather it is far greater and far deeper than just what people look at on the surface. Many of this we have experienced it in our life. So those of you who have seen small children, you will note that a small child will fight bedtime hardest when they are the most sleepy. Right? They won't be able to keep their eyes open. No, I don't want to sleep. I can't throw a tantrum on the mimbar, but you might have seen how that tantrum works. They can't keep their eyes open. But you say that it's time for bed, it's time to close the lights, it's time to go into the crib or into the bed, and they will kick and they will scream and they will fight and they will say no. And then sometimes, the minute that you actually put them in bed, they are out cold. So that is, now we laugh at it when we see a child and sometimes we think it is ironic. But many of us, even if we are old and educated and smart, we chase something, we fight and kick and scream to avoid something when that is exactly what we need more than anything else. So when we say that Allah wants us not to answer our every whim and desire, not to chase everything that we think is fun and exciting, we are not being asked by Allah to say no to anything that is a true need and a true good for the human body or the soul. We are not being asked to deny ourselves, but rather we are being told that we are like that infant, that we don't want the lights to turn off. We don't want to go to bed, but that is the only thing that will bring us peace and that will bring us tranquility. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Fajr, Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya. O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, well pleased and well pleasing. What is it that brings tranquility to the soul? Is it something unattainable? Is it something that is just an aspiration that you and I can never reach? Well, the Quran tells us that everyone has the path, the instruction seat, in order to develop a tranquil soul. Ala bi dhikrillah tatma'innul qulub. By remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your heart and your soul, your existence will find tranquility and peace. So what is it that we want more than to be at peace, to be serene, to not have worry and stress? But it is I who mislead myself, thinking that I need money, or I need new food, or I need new toys from Amazon, or other material possessions, or anything exciting and new in my life that is going to finally give me happiness or peace. When in reality, ala bi dhikrillah tatma'innul qulub. Your need and your tranquility, it comes through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So let us not ever make the mistake of thinking that when we speak about a God-centered life, we are saying that you are going to deny yourself. In reality, that is how you are going to find yourself. That is how you are going to revive your soul and yourself and meet your most fundamental and deeply seated needs as a human being. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So today I would like to look at one of the other obstacles that we have in our life when we want to have a God-centered life. Our whim, our desire for pleasure, our self-centeredness, all of these are obstacles. And then there is one that might not come to your mind initially, but when you contemplate, you will realize that this also can become an obstacle. And that is our choice. In our society, we have a misplaced desire and need to have freedom and to have choice. And in many cases, culturally, we are primed to rebel against anything that limits our freedom and our choice. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who created us to have choice, and He gave us the tests in life that He gave us so that we can choose to be pious. And in His wisdom and in His mercy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even kept open a door for people to justify rejecting God and believing in God, so that their belief will be a choice and not something that is compelled. Right now, if I were to ask you, do you believe 2 + 2 is 4? Then that's not really something that is relevant to faith or belief. Because, and I'm not talking about any kind of advanced mathematics or anything beyond our normal experience, but in our normal experience as human beings, there is no way that I can reject something that is so obvious and so axiomatic that my intellect, my experience, my learning all tell me that it is true. There is no value in believing it because there is no excuse to reject it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, although He made clear what is the truth, He also allowed a person to have an excuse that they can make up to reject. He opened that door for the soul and for the intellect because He wants to make sure that your belief is something that you choose and not something that you are cornered and that you are boxed into. La ikraha fid deen, according to Mufassirin, it is not just a law that it is not permitted to force somebody to follow the teachings of God, but rather it is a law of nature that it cannot be compelled for a person to believe. It is not possible. So choice is sacred. But then there is a healthy way to understand choice, and there is a damaging and an unhealthy way. And unfortunately, in our society, many of us, we have learned an unhealthy kind of dependence and need to keep our options open and not to commit. You see that in several different ways. One is, for example, with marriage. A person finds a prospect and it's a good potential marriage partner, but they hesitate to make a decision and they hesitate to commit, not because there is a red flag, but because I'm not sure if I'm ready to commit. I'm not sure if this is the one. I'm not sure if this is something that I want to say yes to and then I am stuck with it for the rest of my life. That can be marriage. It can be making other important life decisions about career, about where to live. Cold feet, not because there is a reason to hesitate or a reason that you need to consult with an alim or a senior member of your family and your community to get information, but because you just want to keep your options open. Many of us, we may have experienced that in different decisions that we have to make in our life. It's very stressful for us and difficult to make a decision, and sometimes we delay the decision so long that it gets made for us through our procrastination. Why? Because we want to keep our options open. And then equally damaging, of course, are those people who go ahead and make the decision. But then they decide that it's always possible to undo it. They'll change their major every semester because their interests change. They'll get married and then they'll say, you know what, I don't think that I can go forward with this. I don't want to sacrifice and learn and grow and second guess my own priorities and my own decisions so that I can honor this relationship, but rather I'm going to start afresh. That's one reason why we see so many more marriages faltering in the early days than in the past. Many other factors are there, but one of the factors is that people are less likely to say that, all right, I have now a clear path, a relationship that I need to honor. And my goal is not to keep my options open and to keep my own preferences foremost, but rather to sacrifice and maybe rethink some of my decisions so that I can honor this relationship. And sometimes, even more painfully, we find that with a person's family members, parents, near and dear ones, you kind of move away from your elders, because if you honor your elders, then they are going to tell you what they think. And then you may feel bound by their advice or their guidance. How many people are there who say that I want to go to college at least 1,000 miles away from home? I think 1,000 miles is a safe difference. I can still call my parents if I need money, but they're not going to just show up randomly on a Wednesday night, or even worse, on a Friday or a Saturday night, and want to spend time with me. It'll just be in the vacations or during the summer, during winter break. Maybe once in the semester they might come, stay in a hotel, and visit. That distance that we put, it's not just in college. Sometimes as adults, we also want to keep a distance. One of the reasons is because their thinking or their philosophy is not always what my thinking and my philosophy or my priorities in life might be. So these are just a few examples, and every situation and every family is different. But one thing that we can say in general is that many of us, when we want to keep our options open and we want to choose a place to live or go to school or a career or a time to get married that maximizes our freedom, we are actually limiting our spiritual development, and in many ways we are actually therefore limiting our true freedom and our true potential as a human being. So although choice is sacred, and La ikraha fid deen is not just a law of Islam, but it is a law of nature that God created. Remember that when Allah wants to talk about His greatest favor and blessings to the most chosen people in creation, then one attribute that Allah mentions is that His prophets and His chosen ones are abd. They are slaves of Allah. They submit entirely to Allah. Surah Maryam describes that when Lady Maryam salamullahi alayha brings her infant son, the people, they caused a commotion and a scandal. And under the guidance of Allah, she was told to point to that infant child, Prophet Isa alayhi salam, who was just a few days old, not old enough by any means to speak, barely old enough to be able to communicate by crying or by gesture. And then when the people said that, how are we going to talk to an infant newborn? What did Prophet Isa say? قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. This is one of the most powerful miracles that anybody was given among the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to speak as an infant only a few days of age. And Prophet Isa, he introduces what made him worthy of that favor and that miracle from Allah. قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ آتَانِيَ الْكِتَابَ وَجَعَلَنِي نَبِيًّا. I am a slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he had two other attributes. Allah gave me the scripture and Allah made me a prophet. But the introduction is not Inni Nabi. It is Inni Abdullah. So that greatest honor and that greatest expression of the potential of a human being is by voluntarily choosing to be a servant of Allah. So the choice is sacred, but that choice is not meant to be where we stop. It is meant to be what causes us to choose to serve the will and the command of Allah above all else. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And one of the most powerful miracles of our Prophet Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alih is when he was given that heavenly journey to view the signs of Allah in the heavens. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا. سبحان الذي أسرى, the one who is chosen by Allah for that unique and that greatest miracle. Is it سبحان الذي أسرى بنبيه برسوله? What is that defining attribute of our Prophet that made him worthy of Isra? To go from Masjidul Haram to Masjidul Aqsa. To go and view the greatest signs of Allah. لِنُرِيَهُ مِنْ آيَاتِنَا. سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده. Glorified be the one who took his servant, his slave, on a night journey from Masjidul Haram to Masjidul Aqsa. So choice is sacred, but sometimes we seek it and we stop at it and we forget that that choice is just a tool and a faculty that Allah has given us in order to voluntarily choose the one thing that sets us free from being slaves of ourselves or anyone else. And that is to reject choosing our own destiny and our own wants and to submit to the will and to the command of Allah. And so when Allah says, قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell the Prophet to introduce this mission and this motto of life? لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَبِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ. I didn't choose to dedicate my prayer and my worship, my life and my death to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or if I chose it, it is because بِذَلِكَ أُمِرْتُ. Allah commanded it. So how do many people make a mistake in this regard? One common example is hijab. You know how in our society many times non-Muslims will make that false claim that Muslim women are pressured by their fathers or their brothers or their husbands or their society in order to wear hijab. And rightfully, the answer given by many Muslims, spokespeople for the Muslim community, many Muslim women, and those who want to defend Islam, is that hijab is a choice that a woman makes out of her devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is true in as far as it goes. But sometimes the focus is so much on the choice that we forget that it is not a choose like you can choose whether to order a latte or a tea at Starbucks. That is a choice that is just a choice. Although the best choice is to avoid Starbucks altogether and get your tea from somewhere else. I know some of you are looking at me because you know that Starbucks is not a place that I would recommend. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. That is a choice though. What do you want for lunch? That is a choice and it is just a choice. But hijab, or anything that Allah has commanded, not hijab, that is something that society has brought out and made a big deal about. Otherwise, hijab is just like salah. Hijab is just like avoiding gambling or avoiding alcohol or indecency or anything that Allah has prohibited. It is demeaning to my prayer for me to say prayer is a choice. I freely choose to do this prayer. Why is it demeaning? Because prayer is an act of humility and devotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is a choice. And Allah has allowed us to use the strength He gave us, the health, the time, and the energy that He gave us to do what we want. He's even facilitated for us to choose when to pray by saying that you have from the beginning until the end of the prayer time. But in the end, if prayer is an act of worship, and if prayer is an act of devotion, I can't summarize my relationship to prayer just by saying that this is a choice. Why? Because then the focus is on me and not on what prayer is actually about, which is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let me give an example to make that even clearer. Let's say you love somebody and you want to give them a gift. A parent, sibling, somebody in your life that you truly love. And so now you want to find out what is it that they want. Maybe you ask them indirectly. You mention something that you've seen online and kind of put out a feeler and see if they are excited about it. You want something that they would like. And you choose something, you go, you purchase it, and the time comes when you want to gift that thing to your beloved, to your mother, to your father, to your spouse, to your child. Are you going to emphasize, this is something that I chose? Nobody compelled me. I didn't get it because I had a gift card from this store and so I could only buy something from that one particular store. There's no compulsion, I chose it. If you keep talking about how it is a choice, then you are detracting from the purpose of that gift, which is to do something, to give something that is desired, that is beneficial, that will bring happiness to the person to whom you are dedicating and giving it. By emphasizing the choice, you are making it about yourself. It is a choice, and you should choose. And if you truly love somebody, don't just go and see what is it that you have a credit for or a gift receipt for or a gift card for, and then take something off the shelf and give it to them. That is a choice, and a thoughtful gift is also a choice. But then the point is not the choice. That choice is to direct you to do something for the other person, and your focus is on their pleasure or on their need and not your own choice. It's clear in the case of a gift. But that is true for all of our obligations. Because whether it is hijab, whether it is our salah, whether it is anything else that we do as a requirement fulfilling our duty to Allah, or a recommendation of Allah, the point and the focus is not that it is a choice. The point and the focus is that it is right and that it is the pleasure and the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if society tries to prime you to focus on the choice by denying the choice, then give your answer. But then remember that that is not the point or the focus. The focus is something far greater than that. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Now, another problem with our relationship with choice is that anytime we have a limitation on our choice, we feel like it is a bad thing. And the reality is that it is wise for us to choose to limit our options in life. I'll start with an easy example and then come to the more significant example for our life. Let's say that you have a really important test and it's coming up tomorrow and you haven't studied enough. So what does a reasonable person do? Do they say that, all right, let me bring my gaming console into the room because I need to keep my options open? Let me bring that large screen TV and make sure that I have all my subscriptions to Netflix or whatever it is because I need to keep my options open. And let me bring all the junk food that I have and maybe board games or something else that can distract me. I need to keep my options open. What do? If you are studying in a room that has distractions, if you are smart, you will cover up those distractions. You'll hide the book or the board game or that gaming console or anything that might distract you. You might even disconnect from the internet so you're not tempted to go on Instagram or to check out what's available for viewing online, so that you can focus on what you need to do in order to pass the test. You have those options, but you are benefiting yourself by limiting your freedom. You choose to limit your freedom. And that limitation shouldn't make you uneasy that, oh my God, I don't have all of my options. If you keep all of those options, then you are less likely to succeed in your test. Let's say, for example, that you have a health concern. Let's say that you have diabetes and too much sugar is damaging for you. So what's the proper response? Let me load up on soft drinks and snacks, make sure that my fridge is stuffed with cheesecake, my freezer has ice cream, I have everything that can distract me, so my options are open. But then I'll only eat the broccoli that's been sitting in the fridge for 3 weeks and I'm not even sure if it's healthy. Is that what you're going to do? Your counter, your fridge, your freezer, your pantry, stuffed with everything that is damaging in order to have your options? Now, these are obvious examples. Many of us, we don't always practice them, but we understand that if you have an important test, the reasonable thing is to remove the distractions. If you have a health concern and something is damaging for you, then you don't put it in front of you so that every time you pass and you see it or you get a whiff of it, you're tempted to eat it. But why is it that in life we don't want to put those same restrictions? I might not be diabetic. I might not have a major exam in college tomorrow, but I have an exam in life. And that exam in life is that I am being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to see whether I obey or I disobey His commands. So all of us, we didn't hesitate to say that when it comes to your food, if something is damaging to your health, if you are severely allergic to it, then don't put it in your pantry and don't put it on your desk. If you have a big test, then don't distract yourself with something. Don't keep your options open. But in life, how many of us keep our options open when that might lead us to ignore or to delay what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked of us, or that might require us to fight against our immediate inclination and our default response. More important than that test that you want to get a good score on, more important than your physical health, although both of those are important, is your spiritual health. And so what we need to do is not to eliminate choice, because that goes against the purpose of God's creation, but to choose our circumstances in life so that we don't maximize our options, but rather we remove those choices and those options that are going to take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now, I choose friends. I choose an environment. I choose a career. I choose a neighborhood. I choose where to go and what to do in life, not so that I have the most options, but so that the right choice and the right option becomes easier and easier for me to adopt, and the damaging and the wrong choices, they naturally are further and further away from my sight and less able to damage and distract me. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So in summary, our choices, they often are something that we want to maximize, and we forget that Allah has given us freedom and Allah has given us choices as a test, and how we succeed in that test and how we make the best choices is to limit what we have in front of us. And there are studies that bear this out, that human beings, they don't make optimal decisions when they have too many options, because the mind is not able to process all of those factors. You will make an optimal decision if you can first eliminate the unreasonable, and then you choose among those that are likely to be the most beneficial to you. So in our lives, if we want to live a God-centered life and we want to succeed, then don't be a slave to choice. Sometimes limit your choice. Sometimes limit what you say and look at the effect of what you are going to say before you decide whether it is worth saying or typing or texting or posting or sending a picture or a post in person or online. Don't think that, well, it's my right, it's my freedom. But rather decide, is it what is right or not? And you see that those who are chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they surround themselves with the remembrance of Allah such that they are carried closer to Allah even in the most difficult circumstances. Today, let us remember one of the martyrs of Karbala, the first martyr of Karbala, who didn't die on the day of Ashura, but was martyred far away from Imam Hussein, and see how his choices led him to that greatest honor of martyrdom. And that is the ambassador of our Imam, the cousin and the brother of our Imam, Muslim ibn Aqil. All of the martyrs of Karbala, their sacrifice was tragic. But in some ways, the tragedy of Muslim ibn Aqil is unique, because every other martyr of Karbala, they gave their life on Ashura. It was Imam Hussein who prepared them for battle. It was Imam Hussein who prayed for them as they went to face the enemy. And it gave them peace and it gave them strength to know that even if they were surrounded by the enemy, even if they were wounded, then their Imam was watching them. Their Imam was looking over them and praying for them. And he was honoring them with his du'as and his presence. But Muslim gave a sacrifice far away in the city of Kufa. It is said in history that first 18,000 people pledged their allegiance on the hands of Muslim ibn Aqil, and he sent a message to his Imam that the people of Kufa, they have pledged their allegiance and they are claiming that they are ready to serve and to follow you. So hasten to a city that is awaiting your presence. But the same people who sent letters to Imam Hussein, in many cases, they also were afraid of the government of Yazid. And some people in Kufa sent letters to Yazid that if you don't want this city to be lost, then send somebody who can take control of Kufa. Yazid sent Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. And he began bribing and threatening the wealthy and the powerful people in Kufa, and then spreading rumors that the army of Yazid, thousands of people, is on its way from Syria, and if anybody supports Muslim ibn Aqil, then they will be imprisoned or they will be killed when the army of Yazid comes. And slowly that support, it began to evaporate until the host of Muslim in Kufa, Hani ibn Urwa, was arrested. And Muslim decided that to honor his host, he must now call his supporters and come to the defense of the mission of Imam Hussein. It was a hasty preparation. A few hundred people answered the call of Muslim. But it is said in narrations that if there were 300 people when Muslim ibn Aqil prayed Maghrib, then by the time that Isha prayer came, only 10 people remained. And when Muslim ibn Aqil finished the prayer and wished now to organize his soldiers and his supporters, then he was alone in the darkness of the streets of Kufa. And he didn't know which way to turn. He didn't know how he could fulfill his pledge to his Imam. It is said that in the darkness, he wandered among the streets of Kufa looking for someone that might be able to come to his support and to the assistance of the Imam, until he saw one house. It was the house of a poor lady, but something in the heart of Muslim came and told him that this is where he should pause for a moment. He was alone and he was thirsty. He came to that door, and a lady came to the door and said that, "Is there something that you need? Kufa is not safe at this time." Muslim said that, "Would it be possible for me to have a sip of water?" That lady, Ta'a, she brought water to Muslim. He drank, and then she said, "Now go to your family and go to your home." And Muslim said that, what would a person do who is a stranger in the city of Kufa, who has no home and has no refuge and does not know where to turn? Ta'a was a lover of Ahlul Bayt. Something told her that this was not just an ordinary man that Allah had brought to her door. She said, "Who are you?" And he said with caution that, "I have come from Medina." She said, "Where in Medina?" He said that, "I have come from the neighborhood of Banu Hashim." Ta'a said that Banu Hashim are my role models. "Tell me, who are you?" He said that, "I am Muslim ibn Aqil. I am the ambassador of Hussein. I came to this city, but the people broke their pledge, and now I am alone, and there is only one thought on my mind. How can I send a message to my Imam that the city of Kufa is no longer loyal?" Ta'a said that, "I have but a humble home. It does not offer protection, but come into my home, and you are safe so long as you are here." One lady now was the only follower of Ahlul Bayt. She gave refuge to Muslim, and she brought him what he needed for that night. She brought him dinner, but he did not eat. She brought him water, but he did not drink further. She brought him a bed, but he did not sleep. That night Muslim spent in worship, just like Imam Hussein spent the eve of Ashura in worship, until the time for Fajr came. And when Ta'a brought water for wudu, she said to Muslim that, "Oh my master, oh my Sayyid, it is as if you did not sleep last night." And Muslim said that, "I closed my eyes for a few moments, and I saw my uncle, Amirul Mu'mineen. He called to me that, 'Oh Muslim, in just a few moments, you are going to be reunited with me and with the Messenger of Allah. O Muslim, have patience, for there stands nothing between you and Jannah but martyrdom in the way of Allah. Taha began to weep that her guest was telling her that he was going to be martyred. And as the dawn began to break, the sound of enemy soldiers came. Taha said that, "O my Sayyid, O my Master, you are safe in my home." He said that you have fulfilled your pledge and I will not cause any harm to come to you. Muslim left the home of Taha. There were 300 soldiers that had come to arrest Muslim. He fought them single-handedly, and he defeated those soldiers that came to him in single combat. And so they made a circle around him. They climbed onto the roofs of the neighboring houses, and they began to throw flaming torches and stones and bricks and arrows in the direction of Muslim. He was alone, and it was as if we were watching now a prelude to the battle of Imam Hussein in Karbala. Muslim fought so long as he was able to stand, until the leader of Ibn Ziyad's soldiers, Muhammad ibn Ash'as, said that I give you protection and aman. Muslim said that I don't trust your word, but perhaps I might be able to make a will and pass a message to my Imam. And so he was arrested and brought before Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad. There was only one thing that Muslim said at that time. He said that if there is somebody who can listen to my wasiyah, if there is somebody who can pass a message to Imam Hussein. But in that treacherous gathering, there was nobody who would fulfill that basic request of Muslim. He was taken to the roof of the governor's palace, and from there, the executioner, he lifted his sword above the head of Muslim to martyr him. And Muslim turned his head in the direction of Hijaz. He said, "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah." "Oh my Master Hasan, I fear that I have failed you. I fear that I have not fulfilled the task that you have given to me." And as he sent his final greeting to the Imam, the executioner's sword came down upon his head, and as Muslim was martyred, Imam Hussein was on the journey towards Karbala. Miraculously, he saw that message of Muslim. It is said that Imam Hussein stood up and he said, "Wa alayka salam, ya akhi." "Oh my brother, you have my greetings. You have fulfilled your covenant, and very soon we will also be journeying on that same path of martyrdom. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ. O Allah, we ask you to accept this remembrance of the sacrifice of the martyrs of Karbala, and in particular Muslim ibn Aqil. O Allah, we ask you that grant us the honor to know that our best choice in life is to prefer your obedience and your pleasure to our own desire. We ask you, O Allah, to make prominent for us those choices that are pleasing for you, and remove from in front of our vision all of those choices that bring harm to us and that bring your displeasure. O Allah, keep us with Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad in this life and in the hereafter. Sallu ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad.
Brothers and sisters, that concludes our program. You're kindly requested to make your way upstairs.